Hey guys, Mr. Brown here, and today we are going to work on Shakespeare's sonnets. We can't get away from this guy. On page 106, we have the sonnets in your gold books, but I'm also going to call up No Fear Shakespeare sonnets on SparkNotes, and that way we can follow along from the same text, and you'll see a translation. Some of the translation that they use is a little different than what I'm going to tell you, but that's just, again, that's a matter of interpreting poetry, right? On 106, let's read the Learn About section. Rhyme refers to the repeated use of words containing the same sounds. A vowel usually creates the rhyming sound, as in day and May. Sometimes letters in combination produce the rhyme, as in brings and kings. The last syllable is usually the rhymed unit, as in despising and arising. In poetry, rhyme is most commonly employed at the end of a poetic line. Now, you have similar rhyme and you have identical rhyme. Excuse me. Identical rhyme is what we usually think of when we think of something rhyming. It sounds the same and it's usually spelled the same. Sometimes you can look at an identical rhyme and you think that, but that's not a rhyme. But by the technical framework that, by the definition of the term, yes, it is. Consider the word by. All right. You have by, B-Y, and you have by, B-Y-E. That's considered a rhyme because it has the same vowel sound, by. All right. For that matter, you could use the words, themselves. You could have B-Y and B-Y, and that would be considered a rhyme. Spelled the same, sounds the same. Now, you also have similar rhyme, which is weird and aggravating. All right? Consider the words temperate and date. Let me get a piece of paper right quick. Sorry about that. All right. Get this work. All right, so you've got the word temperate. You've got the word date. All right, I hope you can see that. All right. This pen's not the greatest. Now, what makes these two words rhyme? Again, we said that it is a case of spelling and sound. So temperate and date don't sound like they rhyme at all. But A-T-E, A-T-E. This is considered a rhyme because of the spelling. So this is what we call a similar rhyme. Right? So identical rhyme will be spelled the same, sound the same. It's going to be your traditional rhyme that you think of. Similar rhyme won't it won't sound the same, or it won't be spelled the same, but it will fit one or the other and will be considered a rhyme because of that. It's a little bit more aggravating. All right, let's continue. Rhyme scheme refers to the arrangement of rhyme in a stanza or verse within a poem. The simplest form of rhyme scheme is the couplet. A couplet is a two-line rhyming unit. Following are 4 Shakespearean sonnets. Think of each sonnet as 3 4-line stanzas or quatrains and a concluding couplet. In each quatrain, the last syllable in the first and third lines rhyme. The last syllable in the second and fourth lines also rhyme. All right, so if you glance over on page 107, you'll see sonnet 18, and you'll see that it's broken up into 3 4-line sections. These stanzas or quatrains are made up of 4 lines each. And then at the bottom, you've got a 2-line concluding couplet indented down there at the bottom. What we're going to find is that in each case, the couplet at the bottom kind of sums up the poem or answers questions that have been asked. As you read the selections, ask yourself, which rhyming words use identical sounds to create the rhyme? which words use similar but not identical sounds to create the rhyme. All right, let me get over here onto Spark Notes right quick. And we'll start with Sonnet 18. All right. Now, the sonnets, there's a lot of debate about the meaning of the sonnets. They seem to be grouped into categories. They seem to have different sections of them where he's talking about different things that are going on in his life. And for centuries, people have debated what it is that he's talking about. The first 20 or so seemed to be him giving advice to a young man, an extremely physically attractive young man. And he's basically giving him advice on marriage, having kids, telling him to take care of his family responsibilities, to carry on his family name, things of this nature. All right, the second set seems to be Shakespeare in love. Now, people debate who is he in love with. Used to be they would say that he was in love with some woman or another. But over the past several decades, the idea that he's actually fallen in love with this handsome young man is something that has grown extremely more popular, more accepted, and it is possible. It's also possible that he is expressing admiration for the young man and using terms of affection that we in our modern seeming, that a guy would usually not be comfortable using these terms. That is also possible. Lastly, we have the Dark Lady Sonnets, or the Dark-Haired Woman Sonnets. And this is Shakespeare in a love-hate relationship with some mysterious dark-haired lady. Apparently, also, the young man that we've been talking about previously is also mixed up in this, and there's kind of a triangle going on between them. We're going to not really argue about Shakespeare's sexual orientation. He might have been straight. He might have been gay. He might have been bi. Excuse me. We don't know. And unless somebody finds Shakespeare's hidden secret diary, we're never going to know. Unless somebody builds a TARDIS, we're never going to know. And when push comes to shove, it doesn't matter. We admire Shakespeare for the beauty of his poetry, the beauty of his verse. And his plays, as we have discussed, are giant poems, and they're obviously very powerful, very beautiful. But nothing quite shows his artistic talent the way his poems do. So we're going to read four of the poems today: Sonnet 18, 29, 116, and 130. And he didn't number them. It was an arbitrary number that the publisher apparently assigned to them. At least that's what I was taught. One of these, Sonnet 18, is from the ones where he's giving advice to his subject, the handsome young man. But this is also the ones where he seems to be heading towards, something a bit more romantic in terms of what he's saying. Sonnet 29 is a bit more personal. It's about Shakespeare having a bad day. If you can imagine that, Shakespeare having a bad day. He was human, just like everybody else. Sonnet 116 is him seeming to be discussing the nature of true love itself, what it is, how it works. And Sonnet 130 is one of the dark-haired woman sonnets. I'll go ahead and tell you that Sonnet 116 is my favorite sonnet of all of them. Sonnet 18 is probably the best known of all the 154 sonnets. There were 154 in total. We think there may have been more, but, these were the ones that have managed to survive. All right, so let's start with Sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this and gives life to thee. I'm not as good as Patrick Stewart. You may have seen on social media that Patrick Stewart, over the course of our quarantine, has been reading one of the sonnets a day. He's up to, I think, 19 or 20 now. So he's about where we are. But as to the meaning of it, he's comparing the beauty of his lover, and we're going to just say lover and just not assign anybody to it. We're just going to say somebody Shakespeare loves, all right, to a summer's day. Shall I compare your beauty to the beauty of summer? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. This person is prettier, more lovely, and more temperate, more easygoing, easier to get along with. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease has all too short a date. Sometimes during summer you have bad weather, and that takes away from the beauty of summer. And he says summer's lease, summer's time, is all too short. You get 3 months of summer, and then that's gone. So summer's beauty is, going to fade away very quickly. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dim. That's an easy one. The hot golden eye of heaven. That's the sun. And yeah, sometimes during summer, it's just plain too hot. I am not a summer person. I've walked up and down too many tobacco roads, cropping tobacco. I'm a fall guy. I'm a winter guy. All right? And every fair from fair declines by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. Fair, the way he's using it here, means beauty. Every beauty from beauty declines. No beauty lasts forever. It all declines. It all fades away. By chance, some accident messes up the beautiful thing, or nature's changing course, the passage of time. So nothing beautiful is going to last forever. It's either going to be destroyed by some incident, or it's going to fade away with the passage of time. But thy eternal summer shall not fade. The eternal beauty that this person possesses, they'll always have it. Nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. The things that make this person beautiful, that individual will always have these. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade. The individual is never going to die. Death will never be able to brag and say, he or she stands here in my shadow. When in eternal lines to time thou growest. The person is never going to die because they're going to continue to live and grow in the lines of this poem. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this and gives life to thee. So long as there are people living and they have eyes to see and can read this poem, even as we are reading it today, the individual will continue to live and grow. All right? He has made this person, whoever it might be, live forever, so long as people read the poem. He or she is immortal through the poem. And you can kind of argue there's some truth to this, because whoever this person was, here we are 400 years later, still reading about this person and how beautiful he or she was, and what he or she meant to Shakespeare. All right. All right, let's move on to Sonnet 29. All right, and like I said, this one, Shakespeare's having a bad day. Shakespeare's having a pity party. All right. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy contented least. Yet in these thoughts myself almost despising, happily I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day, arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. He's just not having fun today, all right? When in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes, when I feel like I'm disgraced with fortune, when I'm having just miserable, terrible, horrible luck, and I'm disgraced in men's eyes, I feel like everybody's looking down on me. Right? I all alone beweep my outcast state. I feel sorry for me, but nobody else does. And trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries. I pray to heaven for some kind of relief, but my prayers are futile, bootless. Heaven is deaf to my prayers. God is not listening to me today. And we all feel like that sometimes, don't we? And look upon myself and curse my fate. He looks at his life and he hates it. All right? Like I said, we all feel like this sometimes. Wishing me like one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope. This whole stanza, this whole quatrain, he seems to be expressing jealousy of somebody. All right? Wishing me like one more rich in hope. I wish I had his hopes for the future. Featured like him. I wish I had his looks. Like him with friends possessed. I wish I had his friends. I wish I had his connections. Desiring this man's art and that man's scope. I wish I had his artistic talent. I wish I had his scope, his ability to see the world. Seems to be expressing, jealousy of more than one person here. With what I most enjoy contented least. The thing that makes me happiest is bringing me no joy. Now, what do we imagine Shakespeare would most enjoy doing? Writing. All right, that seems to be the most obvious thing. So he's looking at the thing he just wrote, and he looks at it. That was garbage. All right. So he's just really down in the dumps, and he's really unhappy with his work, and he sees other people around him who seem to be so successful, and he's jealous. People have put forward a lot of different people that he could be talking about. There's one poet named Ben Jonson that they think he could be meaning. My personal theory has always been Christopher Marlowe. Marlowe and he were competitors, both trying to sell their work to the playhouses, both trying to gain patronage of royalty through their poems. And Marlowe was considered better than Shakespeare when they were both starting out. And it was only after Marlowe got himself killed, if you'll remember from the lyric poems, blam, that Shakespeare's career really took off. So my personal theory is that he might be talking about more than one person here, but primarily he's talking about Kit Marlowe. All right. Yet in these thoughts, myself almost despising, I hate myself for thinking this way. Happily, I think on thee, I think about you, and then my state, my situation, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. He remembers this person that he loves. He's way down in the dumps. But then he remembers, okay, this person loved me. And then it doesn't hurt so bad. It's not as bad. He remembers that this person loved him, and he says, it's like my spirit is a bird flying off to sing at the gates of heaven. The memory of what they had together cheers him up that much, to the point where he says, for thy sweet love remembered, such wealth brings that then I scorn to change my place, my state with kings. Just the memory of what they had together means so much to him. He decides being Will Shakespeare is not a bad thing. And he says, I would not trade places with a king because this person was in his life, and that has made all the difference in his life. All right? If you're lucky, if you're real lucky, you'll have somebody like that in your life. All right? So let's move on to Sonnet 116. And like I said, this is arguably my favorite one. It's not talking about any particular person. My feeling of this has always been that somebody has come to him and told him, I'm in love again. And Shakespeare just kind of rolls his eyes and sort of says, again? All right. The No Fear Shakespeare takes a little different context to it. Let me not to the marriage of true minds and men impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. All right, so someone's come to him and said, I'm in love. And apparently, this is not the first time this person has come to Shakespeare and said, I'm in love. Now, you may know this person, someone like this person, who is constantly in and out of a relationship, or they are constantly breaking up and getting back up together with their person. All right, this has always been my interpretation of whoever it is that Shakespeare is speaking to. And he's trying to explain to him, okay, this is what love is, and this is how love works. And if it's not playing by these rules, then you can't call it true love. All right? Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Don't ever let me get in the way of two people who want to be together, being together. All right? But love is not love, which alters when an alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Love, real love, doesn't alter or change when life's problems start cropping up. It doesn't bend or remove itself, even when the person is not in your presence all the time, even when they're gone from you. All right, if it's real, it's going to last through the separation. It is an ever fixed mark that looks on tempest and is never shaken. It is a constant, unchanging thing. He's comparing it to the North Star. That looks on storms and is never shaken by them. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth unknown, although his height be taken. Bark, the way he's using it here, like he used it in Othello, means ship. The same way that the North Star will guide a ship lost at sea, true love can guide you through life. Right? It'll get you through the bad times, and it'll get you back home. All right? And its worth is unknown. You can't measure the worth of love. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love is not time's fool. Love does not care about the passage of time. If you fell in love with a person because of their rosy lips and cheeks, if you fell for them for their looks and you're only in it for the looks, well, that's bad, because those rosy lips and cheeks are not going to last. Time is going to keep marching on. It's going to march right across their face, and time's bending sickle, all right? Time's sweeping sickle, all right? A sickle is you may have seen a Grim Reaper or Father Time. Matter of fact, Father Time is the better analogy. He's got a long bladed hook, all right, on a long staff. And it's used to harvest grain. It's used to harvest wheat. He's basically saying time is going to come along and whack your person in the face with that sickle and strip away those rosy lips and cheeks. But if you really love them, you're going to love them 50 years down the road when the rosy lips and cheeks have given way to old and scraggly. All right? Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. Love does not care about the passage of time. It won't last a few hours or a few weeks, but if it's real, it'll last forever. It'll last to the edge of doom, the end of time. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. If I am wrong in this, and you can prove me wrong in this, I never wrote, and nobody ever loved. All right? This one speaks to me more loudly than any of the other ones, because I think so seldom in life we really do find real love. I think oftentimes we hunt around and we get discouraged and we can't find what we're looking for, or maybe more importantly, what we need. And sometimes we end up with the wrong person, and it, discourages us. I'm not putting myself back out there. Shakespeare, of course, very famously said, "'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all." Better that you loved and got hurt than you never loved at all. Although when you're in that moment of pain, it don't seem like that, does it? But anyway, he says if it's real, it's going to take anything life can throw at it and be just as strong on the other side. And it'll last. It won't go away after a short period of time. It'll last. If you're in a relationship or not. All right. Obviously, I don't. But let's put ourselves in a little hypothetical situation here. All right. And we'll test, whether your love for your person is up to Shakespeare's standard of true love. All right. Hypothetical situation. God forbid it ever actually happens, but you get a call from the highway patrol. Your person has been in an accident, all right, a bad accident, and this is wrecked, all right. Nothing is ever going to make your person look like they did before, all right. They're going to scare children. Do you stay with them? Through all that, through this, do you love them enough to stay with them? Because the person, if you fell in love for just this, well, that's gone now. But if you fell in love with this and this, would you stay with them? Right? And the person's going to go through some hell dealing with this. All right? Would you stay with them? Shakespeare says if it's real, then yes, you would. All right? Now I'm going to make it worse because I'm a fairly terrible person. Not only is their face messed up, they are quadriplegic. They have lost the use of their arms and legs. For the rest of their lives, this person will have to be tended to like an infant. He or she will have to be fed, cleaned, clothed. We're talking diapers, bedpans, sponge baths, the whole 9 yards. They will have to be cared for like an infant for the remainder of their life. Would you stay with that person? That's big. That's huge. I don't think we could argue in either case that if your answer was yes, then I don't have a doubt in my mind you actually love this person. But I will not judge you if you said no, because I just threw 2 really heavy duty things at you. All right, so there's that one. So there's that one. All right, let's move on to Sonnet 130, and this is the dark-haired woman sonnet, or one of the dark-haired woman sonnets. And in the dark-haired woman sonnets, the dark lady sonnets, it depends on how he's feeling about her as to the tone of the poem. If he's happy with her, then it's like the woman in the bait. He'll praise her to the sky and back. But if he's mad at her, if she's been messing around with the handsome young man, that triangle, then he will cuss her hotter than the oldest cinder in hell. All right, and this is one of the ones where he's mad at her. My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with faults compare. All right? He is sitting here cataloging her flaws and faults, and he's showing her no mercy, no compassion, no pity, no nothing. My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. In a typical poem, a person's eyes might be described as being sparkling and beautiful and like limpid pools of light. No, her eyes are dull, flat, and lifeless. All right? Coral is far more red than her lips red. Coral that you bring up from the bottom of the ocean, it's white, usually. There's more color in white coral than there is in her lips. She's pasty lips. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun. In Shakespeare's time period, the epitome of European beauty was to be extremely pale-skinned. So he's saying there's some sort of nasty grayish color about her skin. Maybe she's a commoner. Maybe she's out there, having to work and her skin is getting tanned. Maybe she's got some sort of skin complexion issue. We don't know, but either way, he's not happy with her complexion. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. Head full of tore up, matted, nasty hair. I have seen roses damasked, red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. We all the time hear about a person having, rosy cheeks. Well, there ain't no roses in her cheeks. Again, there's some sort of um, skin complexion issue that he's not crazy about. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks dragon breath. She straight up got kill the flowers if she breathes on them, dragon breath. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. He actually does like the sound of her voice, but he'd rather hear somebody play an instrument than hear her talk, 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 talk. All right. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. This is not a goddess. This is not some supernatural being like the woman we saw in the bait. This is a normal, everyday, average woman, as mortal as the rest of us. And if she wants to get from point A to point B, she's going to have to walk to get there. All right. Now, he's ripped her up one side and down the other for 12 lines, pointing out every flaw she's got. But then he does a complete and total 180 backflip in the couplet at the bottom. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with faults compare. I think my love is more rare than any woman you could falsely compare her to, for one simple reason: he loves her. He loves her, warts and all these things about her that are unpleasant or unattractive. And right now he's mad at her, so he's probably blowing the situation up some. He loves her despite all these flaws, and he loves her despite the fact that she's making him miserable. Now, yes and no. You can say up to a point, if you're really not happy in a relationship, it's time to go, and there's truth in that. But like we said, one poem he's mad at her, the next one he's not. So I guess you can argue that he's living up to his own standards that he set in 116. If you're going to love him, you're going to love him warts and all, and that's the end of it. Now, admittedly, by the end of the sonnets, he breaks up with her. He cuts her and the young man loose, and goes on about his business. So maybe in neither case was it that 116 level of love, romantic or platonic. So let's review. Sonnet 18 is Shakespeare comparing the beauty of his lover to the beauty of summer, and the lover is winning hands down. He also says that he's going to make his lover immortal through the poem that he has written about him or her. Sonnet 29, he's having a pity party. He's all down in the dumps and feeling unsuccessful. But then he is cheered by the memory of his lover and decides, my life is a good life because this person was in it. Right? 116, he's not talking about any particular person, but the nature of true love itself and how it works. And lastly, Sonnet 130, the Dark Lady Sonnet, he is cataloging his lover's physical flaws, but deciding in the end he still loves her. If you have any questions about the sonnets, feel free to contact me. This was another little short assignment. We will be going back to Othello tomorrow, and we'll work on that. There is also a writing assignment attached to this one. I'll put that in the notes that I send along to you. Like I said, if you have any questions, contact me. I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.